Real quickly before we begin, I want to thank this video's sponsor, CarMarshal.com. CarMarshal.com can save you lots of money on buying used or new vehicles, cars, trucks, school buses. If you want to save money, I'll have a link in the description down below. I know I'm going to
Professional Standards 2016 Annual Report. The following is a short summary of each of the internal affairs investigations. IA 16-01, on January 19, 2016, Jason Nassworth met with Ocala Police Department Chief Greg Graham to discuss an issue concerning his wife, Ocala Police Department Officer Jessica Nassworth. Jason Nassworth is a sergeant with the Marion County Sheriff's Office. During that meeting, Jason Nassworth informed Chief Graham that his wife had been having a sexual relationship with several Ocala Police Department officers, including Sergeant Scott Rowe. Jason Nassworth was concerned because all persons involved were married, Sergeant Rowe is a supervisor, and that some of the activities may have occurred while one or more of the officers were on duty. Chief Graham ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain violations of departmental directives against the accused officers. The Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-02, on January 8, 2016, Officer Kasey Walsh intervened in a disturbance while socializing in a drinking establishment. She was off duty and did not identify herself as a Leo to the subject. Officer Walsh's intervention resulted in a physical altercation, during which she struck a subject twice. Officers Vital and Nassworth were present with Officer Walsh at the time. None reported the incident to any supervisor within the department. Chief Graham ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of any potential directive violations. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain violations of departmental directives against the accused officers. The Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-03, on March 5, 2016, Officer Jose Gonzalez responded to 3015 Southeast Maury Camp Road, Dunkin' Donuts, in reference to a criminal mischief investigation, case 20160004947. Dunkin' Donuts manager Brittany Burley reported that the sink in the men's bathroom had been damaged and determined, after reviewing store surveillance video, that 4 juveniles who regularly frequent the business may have been responsible. OFC Gonzalez documented the incident and also explained the trespass warning procedure to Ms. Burley in the event that the juveniles or anyone else was at the business causing problems. Ms. Burley in turn explained the procedure to her employees. On March 6, Dunkin' Donuts employee Taylor Lays called the Ocala Police Department and requested that an officer be dispatched to issue 3 males trespass warnings. Officer Amado Burgos responded to the location, made contact with 2 of the males who were still at the location, and escorted them out of the business. It was later determined that these subjects were the same as the ones suspected of being involved in the criminal mischief case. OFC Burgos did not issue the subjects trespass warnings per department policy/procedures and closed the call out as GOA. Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain violations of departmental directives against the accused officer. The Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-04, on March 15, 2016, a tip was received that Officer Hall was engaging in the use of marijuana at 3601 West Silver Springs Boulevard, Lot 44. A criminal investigation was initiated that resulted in Officer Hall being confronted with his actions. He declined to participate in a drug screen, was suspended, and ultimately resigned from the department. Multiple forms of marijuana and drug paraphernalia were found in Officer Hall's department-issued patrol vehicle, and Officer Hall was arrested for several drug charges and violation of CJSTC rules. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain violations of departmental directives against the accused officer. The Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-05, on May 17, 2016, Officer Emmanuel Ramjit sent an email, via his Ocala Police Department group-wise account, to Sergeants Malone and Updegraft requesting that day off. The email was sent at 1458 hours and OFC Ramjit was expected to be at work at 2100 hours on that same date. The email contained no written content in the body section, and only "I would like to take today off" in the subject header section. Neither Sergeant Malone nor Sergeant Updegraft replied to OFC Ramjit or granted OFC Ramjit the day, night, off. At 1811 hours on the same date, a text message was sent out stating PD 96 Ramjit will not be in tonight, 5/17/16. At that time, it was not clear why OFC Ramjit called into the communications center to inform them he would not be in for his scheduled shift, sick leave, etc. On May 22, OFC Ramjit completed his timesheet and submitted it to Sergeant Malone for approval. OFC Ramjit's timesheet indicated that he wished to use comp time for May 17. Sergeant Malone advised OFC Ramjit that his request to take May 17 off was never approved and asked him if he had called in sick on May 17. OFC Ramjit advised SGT Malone that he did call in sick and was then directed to correct his timesheet to accurately reflect the proper leave type. It was later determined that OFC Ramjit left for a boating trip with officers Christopher Scaglione and Joseph Kelly early on the morning of May 18, during the shift that he called in sick for. Both officers Scaglione and Kelly worked the same shift, but had prior approval from their supervisor to be off. Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain violations of departmental directives against the accused officer. The Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-06, on the evening of June 25, 2016, Officer Nasworth made a narcotics arrest and seized quantities of illegal drugs. Early on June 26, she was processing said drugs when she potentially exposed herself to them. She allegedly failed to notify anyone in her chain of command until returning to work on June 29. Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain violations of departmental directives against the accused officers. The Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-07, on August 30, 2016, Ocala Police Department Sergeant Mike Sommer attempted to contact Ocala Police Department Officer Ashley Steenauer at the request of the state Attorney's Office. The State Attorney's Office had been trying to reach Officer Steenauer for several days to schedule a pre-trial conference with her. Sergeant Sommer checked Officer Steenauer's regular duty schedule as well as the special detail calendar to see when she worked, and while doing so, discovered Officer Steenauer and several other midnight shift officers were signing up for special details that began prior to the end of their regular duty shifts. Further investigation by SGT Sommer revealed these officers, to include Officer Steenauer, Officer Rachel Mangum, and Officer Joshua Warner, had reported working their regular duty shift as well as the overlapping special detail shift on their timesheets, and received regular duty pay as well as special duty pay at the same time. The overlapping regular duty shifts and special details were signed off on their timesheets by Sergeants Chris Smith and Lenny Updegraft. Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain violations of departmental directives against the accused officers. Major Mike Bakken agreed with the findings. IA 16-08, on September 17, 2016, Officer Carruthers responded to 1911 Northwest 11th Street in reference to the complainant making threats to family members. He made the decision to initiate a Baker Act on the complainant at the conclusion of his investigation. The complainant alleges officers Carruthers and Wong used excessive force while taking her into custody, which caused her to suffer a wrist injury. She further alleges Officer Wong failed to secure her residence, which resulted in items being stolen while she was under the Baker Act. Testimony received in the investigation gave rise to whether use of force reporting practices were followed. This led to further investigation to explore this aspect of the incident. Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to unfound the accusations against the accused officers. The Deputy Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-09, on November 9, 2016, several officers requested permission to attend a training course, and this request was denied by Captain C. Taylor and Sergeant S. Fernland. It is alleged Lieutenant A. Scrobel then contacted Sergeant Fernland on behalf of two of the officers and requested permission for the officers to attend the training. Sergeant Fernland explained to Lieutenant Scrobel the requests had already been denied. Lieutenant Scrobel then contacted Captain S. Cuppy and asked him for permission for the officers to attend the training. Captain Cuppy was not made aware of the previous denials and approved the training. Several of the officers as well as Lieutenant Scrobel are assigned to Captain Taylor and are not under Captain Cuppy's direct supervision. It is alleged that Lieutenant Scrobel's behavior was counterproductive and potentially threatened the ability to maintain an efficient and orderly workplace within the department. Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to not sustain violations of any departmental directives against the accused officer. The Deputy Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-10, on November 19, 2016, Ocala Police Department Officer Rachel Mangum was working the Light Up Ocala detail. OFC Mangum stated she was speaking with another city employee, Mr. Brandon Farmer, and he told her two other officers were speaking to him negatively about her. According to OFC Mangum, Mr. Farmer would Not go into detail about what the officers told him as to not violate the bro code, but OFC Mangum felt the behavior of the officers, who she identified as Sergeant Dustin Kuntjes and Officer Derek Vital, was unprofessional and offensive. Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts of this complaint. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to unfound the accusations against the accused officers. The Deputy Chief of Police agreed with the findings. IA 16-11, on December 12, 2016, Captain Taylor received information that a potential criminal investigation and use of force incident was mishandled and minimized by the accused officers due to personal relationships and the fact an off-duty Ocala Police Department officer was at the scene with the potential violator. Video and reports on the incident did not shed light on the full story, therefore, Deputy Chief Smith ordered an internal affairs investigation to determine the facts. After the investigation was completed, it was forwarded to a disposition panel. It was the recommendation of the disposition panel to sustain the accusations against the accused officers. Major Mike Bakken agreed with the findings.
Hey Sheriff, we have a question about why your office, your intelligence division, is investigating private citizens for criminal investigation that happen to be activists that are overseeing your department. Why would you have your intelligence division investigate private citizens? We have done...
for life hating so much.
Sir, we don't hate anyone. We love freedom and we love American people. And government is out of control. That's why you're seeing such a revolt nationwide. Why can't you just answer, why is Susan Edwards, your intelligence division, investigating private citizens? This should not happen.
Are you here to apply for a job?
Possibly I might be applying for a job, but that's irrelevant to my question. Why would you ask that question?
Well, enjoy the fair.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Excuse you?
Excuse me, sir.
So those of you that haven't
Wow.
been on a bike before, we're
Sheriff's
just
getting a little too pushy. You work for us, Sheriff. Just keep that in mind. At one time we respected you, but not with that type of attitude.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use. And also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, you know, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon, Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.